Hi, everybody. So today we're going to talk about this case. This doctor sent me a scan of this patient's existing upper denture and the lower denture in the mouth. And I needed to make a new setup that will actually fit the patient's mouth. So in order to do that, I need to first create a model to set the teeth on, because I'm going to be changing the position of the teeth. I can't simply use a duplicate denture technique. So what I'm doing here is I'm using Mesh Mixer to highlight the areas that I'm going to later on invert and make a digital integular surface model from that. So first thing that I did is I selected visible in Mesh Mixer, and then I went back in. As you can see right here, what I'm doing is I am making sure I got all the areas highlighted that I want to keep, and then actually a little bit extra that I'm going to go back in and trim in there. From that point on. So I've done that I press O for optimize boundary, B for smoothing boundary, and then I'm inverting that selection. As you can see right here, now I just have the areas of the integular surface that I want to keep, and everything else has been deleted. So from that point on, I need to actually flip the normals, but before I do that, I will take the areas that I think are going to interfere, and I'm going to cut them. Because what happens when you start getting into undercuts right here, if you extend the base in that area, you're actually going to end up making a hole through a base. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to cut the areas of the selection. I made a little mistake right there. Cut the areas of selection in order to reduce that problem with creating holes in the denture base. Now you want to be careful not to cut too much, because obviously if you do that, then you're going to end up with a base that is does not have a proper thickness. And also sometimes when I do these selections and stuff like this, in order to kind of minimize the issue with the borders, I will actually go in and artificially create a landing area on these cats. I didn't do it in this particular one, but sometimes I will do that. So what I'm doing now is I'm selecting just the edge. In order to do that, you need to make your brush size at 0 and click right on the edge, and then you switch to transform, and that way you can create, by going down, you create a base. And you see right here, you can tell that there are no holes in the base because I've cut the sides of the model properly. Okay, so from this point we just have a hole at the very bottom, as you can see right there, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time filling that hole in. I actually fast forwarded the video a little bit here because it takes a little bit of time to do that in the Mesh Mixer. So I'm saving that as a model. The scan that the doctor sent me is going to be saved as a wax up, and I also have an opposing saved. So then I bring it into Mesh Mixer, and I select monoblock for this particular case, and model material for the material. And on the tooth selection, I'm also going to choose model material for the material. Any color is fine. Okay, and then what I'm doing from this point is I'm actually going to bring in my scans, because I'm using a scanner that is not a 3Shape scanner. So I'm just basically saving the files as STLs in 3Shape format. What I mean by format is actually the orientation of the actual models according to 3Shape. And I'm bringing in, it's asking me for the upper, for the lower, and for the wax up. So I'm bringing all those in, and now we can start designing a new setup. Now what you'll notice here is that for this particular patient, the teeth that I'm going to be using in the library are going to be Vita teeth. And the reason why we're doing that is because later on we're actually going to be doing an analog version of this denture, and I want to make sure that I'm using the same mold that I'm going to be using down the line. Now, here I'm measuring the width of the central just to make sure I will pick the right mold down the line, and I'm choosing in the library which mold to use later. So here I'm aligning the plane of occlusion. Usually I start with the posterior teeth. I'll click forward and then just adjust the plane in the midline where I need to adjust it, as you can see right here. So the next step is for model analysis. It's asking me to mark the tuberosities, the incisive papillas, and the canine lines. Now, canine lines you can mark by using the first major pair of pallar rugae. In this particular situation, they weren't too greatly visible, so I made sure to align it a little bit better by utilizing the actual wax up, as you can see right here. Okay, just move those things around a little bit. And when you click next, the next step is going to be creating the outline for the denture. So this is the part where I was telling you guys about. It helps sometimes to create an artificial landing area because the denture base sometimes is too problematic in this area. So you can overextend it out onto the landing area, create a denture base, and then later on either trim it in Mesh Mixer or just print it as is and just adjust it by hand. So in this particular case, I didn't do that, and actually I didn't have any issues. But if I would have, I would probably have to go back and redo the model. So this is just the outline for the denture. And next step is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, the next step is going to be the actual library that I'm going to choose. And as I said, we're going to be choosing the Vita library. And what it allows me to do down the line is to convert this either by hand into an analog denture, or if I'm doing a digital, but I had to choose not a monoblock. If I wanted to do a digital version of that, I would have had to choose like denture base with manual tooth reduction. But here I just chose monoblock. So here it's asking me for path of insertion. I usually change the path of insertion on the upper a little bit just so I'm minimizing less of an undercut. Now with this particular denture I made a little bit of a mistake. I blocked the undercuts at 3 degrees. Now because this denture is not going for try and it's for the final, I didn't need to block the undercuts unless they're like super major. So here I just went back in and just took the wax off from the undercuts because it's not really that problematic right here. Or I could have just went back a step and then just did not block the undercuts at all. So this was easier for me to do right here. Okay, so this is what I have. Obviously the lower is all kinds of messed up and they're going to be changing it down the line as well. So I'm using the existing scan to line up where the teeth are going to be positioned, an approximation. Because obviously I have an open bite here and I need to bring the teeth outward a little bit and down a little bit to fix it, but at least I can tell what the tooth mold I need to be using. And here you can see that I have 2 premolars and 2 molars. Now I'm going to have to drop a premolar and a molar on each side, which is what I'm going to do right here, and this is after it's been done already. And now I'm looking at occlusion. I'm going to have to move those teeth a little bit individually probably. I try to move teeth together sometimes, but sometimes I don't get the best results. So a lot of times I'll move them a little bit all together and then just individually adjust every single one to do that. So when I'm moving them forward like that, I'll do the whole chain. But when I'm adjusting occlusion, I'm going to have to move each tooth individually to get that fixed. As you can see right here, I'm adjusting to antagonist right here. And a lot of times I'll bring it to mesial. I'm not too worried about contacts mesially distally when I'm doing monoblock because I'm not using individual teeth. I'm more worried about actual occlusion and aesthetics. And in this case, you can see that I'm trying to get that fixed and lined up. So I'll actually also move those centrals a little bit because the plane was a little bit off. So you can see right here, it's telling me that it's going to create a noised output because Vita doesn't allow you to mill or print their teeth because well, obviously they're trying to sell their own teeth that way, make the money. But I have a trick to clean that up afterwards. So you can see right here, those teeth are a little bit on the molars, a little bit close to the edge. It wouldn't be as aggressive if I had a proper vestibular border. This border is a little bit thinner than I want it to, but they're planning to probably realign this chair set anyways. But now I'm bringing this into Mesh Mixer, and I'm going to create different groups of the areas on the actual file, as you can see right here. So I'm going to highlight everything that I can besides those little noised output notches on there. And what it will actually allow me to do is invert the selection and select just those notches in that area, as you can see right here. Okay, so I'm selecting denture base, cleaning that up a little bit. So I'm actually going to select the notches and just the incisal edges a little bit as well, but it's not going to cause too many issues for me. So once I have everything selected, you see I inverted that selection, and I'm going to go into deform and actually smooth everything. And you can play a little bit on the smoothness, make it more or less aggressive. And here I've just smoothed it all out. Now, is it perfect with contours? No, not really. So I can go in, as I'm doing right here, I'm just smoothing it up just a little bit more. And if I wanted to, I can actually add stuff to it. So that's pretty much it. That's what I did for this particular case. Hope it helps you guys out.